Hello, and welcome to another new moon forecast. And we are looking at the Leo new moon of 2023. It's on the 16th of August, and this chart has been set for my part of the world. So don't worry about where you see the signs. It might look different in your part of the world. What's more important is always to look at, do I have things within those degrees of, in this case, we're going to say Leo, primarily looking at that new moon, but also always looking at the same modality. So Leo is a fixed sign. So you would want to look at the other fixed signs, being Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius, because those are where the hard aspects would fall, which means if you have planets or points in a similar degree range of any of the fixed signs for this lunation, you might find that this lunation gives a little harder hit for you, like really pulls something to the surface that needs to be seen and dealt with, pressurizes you to make some change, pulls you in a different direction. Those are the kind of things you're going to find with squares and oppositions, which is always going to be the signs that are in the same quadruplicity or modality. So you can see here is Leo, and let's just pop this as a little blow up. And you can see we have the sun and moon at 23 degrees of Leo. So I know I say this every time we have a new moon, but new moon is called new moon because the sun and moon meet. And in astrology, everything is about cycles and patterns. And so the moon has this cycle of meeting up with the sun every month. That's how a month got its name, because it is the moon's cycle. And every time she meets up with the sun, she begins a new cycle. So every time we find ourselves at new moon, whatever this new moon is, we want to plant some new seeds that we're ready to grow, because this is almost like the dormant point just before the springtime. So you don't yet quite see the growth, but you have to plant the seed and give it a moment before you see the growth. New moon is also a time where we don't see the moon, because sometimes you can just see a wild sort of holographic dark moon, because the moon is with the sun, and the sun, whenever any planet is with the sun, becomes invisible because the sun's light is all encompassing. And we're actually very close at this stage, also have just had a new Venus cycle. So they fall very closely together. The new Venus cycle was on the 13th, and 3 days later we have a new moon. So it doesn't always work so tightly with a new Venus cycle. So this is quite a beautiful double new beginning in the feminine archetypes. Unless we add asteroid goddesses, which I tend not to do in these readings, just keeping them more simple. Although when I work privately with people, I love to add asteroid goddesses to your personal chart. But I haven't been doing it much in these collective readings. But other than the asteroid goddesses, which bring in more archetypal feminine, the traditional 10 planets that we tend to work with are all more masculine in nature. And this isn't about your gender. This is about the energetics of masculine, feminine, yin, yang, day, night, it's sun, moon, etc. But there are only two of all the 10. There are only two that are more feminine, and that is Venus and the moon. And Venus and the moon have both begun a new cycle. And that new cycle is in relation to the sun, the brightest light, and the sort of soul's light, the archetypal masculine energy of the sun, forming a new beginning with the Venus, and a few days later, which is where we're looking now, with the moon. And it was at 20 degrees, I think it was at 20 degrees that Venus and the sun, 20 degrees of Leo, that Venus and the sun began their new cycle, and at 23 degrees that the moon begins. However, remember, the moon does this every month. So this is a new cycle, and we will have another new cycle with the moon around this time next month. Venus's cycles, her new cycles, take a lot longer. They're around 18 months long before we have another new Venus cycle, and around 8 years before we have another new Venus in Leo. So you can see again, if we look at the astrology of things, that there are these cycles, there are these patterns, and we're working with cycles and patterns within cycles and patterns. And as we begin to understand them, as we begin to unfold and uncover where they are connected more personally to us, this becomes an extremely powerful space. And I am going to drop a little video on here about a workshop I'm about to be launching, which really dives deeper into your personalized Venus story, how your new Venuses have gone over the course of your life, so you can recognize your own relationship to worth and value, your own relationship to love, self-love, love in relationship, giving and receiving, all of those kinds of Venusian things. So if you're interested in that, please do check it out. I will pop the video on a little bit later today. So let's focus in on this new moon. The new moon is at 23 degrees of Leo. So you would want to look around, let's just call it 20 to 26 degrees of Leo, or the fixed signs, the other fixed signs, as we mentioned them earlier, being Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And if you find, well, I'm just outside of that, I have a planet 1 degree further out in either direction, feel into it, trust it. I mean, you can definitely take that. But what we're seeing here is that Sun and Moon are 23. Venus is still moving backwards. So she's still kind of in the mix here. She's still really feeling into this energy and adding to this energy, including the relationship of what she's just experienced with Sun, and her passing with Moon, and then infusing a very reflective, because she's retrograde, a very reflective energy. And so as Sun and Moon come together, they've both just touched in with Venus, who's reevaluating how we do relationship, how we can be heart-centered, come from love. And as Sun and Moon meet, they're almost like, if we saw Mars and Venus as the archetypal masculine and feminine, Moon and Sun are like the wise elder archetypes of the masculine and feminine. So it's almost as if they've met with their daughter, or they've met with a younger version of the feminine, and now they're saying, okay, well, how do we do this? She's got a point. She was asking the right questions. And so now Sun and Moon is like these archetypal kind of grandparent energies. They incorporate that into their conversation of this new moon. And so that is a powerful place to plant some seeds. Remembering too, I'm just going to pop that back smaller, sorry. Remembering too that we would look at all things Leo for this conversation. And Leo is the king or the queen, the figurehead, the main character in the play. And that's not to say that every Leo loves the stage, because I have found that it can be quite the opposite. Leos can actually feel quite intimidated by the limelight. However, they keep finding themselves crash bang in the middle of the limelight. And that's partly because there is this natural charismatic light to Leonine people that they can't dim, even though they try. And some of them try very hard to dim it and manage to get away with it at certain points, but not forever, because if you have strong fire, any of the fires, then there is this, you just are. It's like the sun, and Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun just is. You can't expect the sun not to shine. If there's cloud, you might not see that the sun's shining because he might be behind the clouds, or if it's nighttime, you may not know that on the other side of the globe, the sun is shining bright. But quite frankly, it doesn't matter the weather. The sun is always shining. He might just be above the weather system that you are aware of. He never stops shining. And it's kind of the same for people with strong Leo energies. You never stop shining. And so it can almost be difficult to decompress. So for this new moon, because Leo is also a sign that rules fun and playfulness and hobbies and creativity and pleasure and children, look to those spaces to down-regulate, to relax, to take a load off, and to redress the balance of trying to be on all the time, or not even trying, but being on all the time, if you associate the sun and Leo energies as that light that never stops shining. So that's really important. I also feel like there's an interesting dynamic here between Mars and Neptune. They're in a sort of wide dish opposition, and Mars is moving to bring that closer. So it feels to me like there is this conversation with Mars, who wants to get the thing done, and he's in Virgo, so he's detail focused right now. So this is a good time for us to be detail oriented on how to make steps to getting projects to fruition, getting things to come right. Let's be methodical. Let's be conscientious. Let's pay attention every day to doing these things, not just say, I want this project to be done by then, and not coming to the table every day to put some work into it. That's where Mars is at right now. Neptune the modern ruler of Pisces is in Pisces, and it's very like the whole entire ocean. It's this amazing, flowy, spiritual, creative dream of a new world, dream of better things, but kind of not actionable because it's so, the dream time, the dreamscape, the ethereal, the imaginal. And Mars is kind of like trying to anchor that and say, listen, Neptune, let's focus. It's all great, you've got this dream, but how do we get there? So this is actually quite a powerful time to harness what is the dream and how do I action it? What is the dream? And there may be this need to keep kind of like reining yourself in a little bit, and that can be frustrating for Mars. He's struggling a little to harness Neptune. Neptune's not easily harnessed, but he's really working at actioning those things. And I have seen that theme coming up quite a lot in my weekly card readings of we're actually starting to see the fruits of our labor of what the new earth is becoming, but we actually have to still pay attention and go, oh, look, I have been creating something that is new and different and so on, because it's so overwhelming, Neptunian and Piscean, that we're almost, it's hard to see it. But Mars is giving us a little window right now, and not only Mars, but Mercury, who's also in Virgo, who's very happy in Virgo because he is the ruler of Virgo. He's very keen to take those details, to take every little piece of the puzzle and make it fit. And he's gotten a new puzzle that he doesn't have the picture to. So he's kind of got to just decipher it, which is a little harder because we're moving into that new earth. So it's not like, oh, I know how this has always been built, I'll just build it like this. It's new and he didn't get the picture. And Mercury's going to be doing a retrograde within this space quite soon, in the Virgo space quite soon. And so while he does that, he makes 3 passes across Jupiter in Taurus, positive ones, in Earth trine. And this for me is quite important because Jupiter expands things. So it's almost like he's saying to Mercury, even though you're in the detail-oriented Virgo, I'm in the practical Taurus, but I want to open your mind to kind of be able to bird's eye view, what could the picture of the puzzle be that I'm building? And take a little time with this. Allow yourself to open up to this. This is kind of Neptune's stance on it. Be practical, keep putting one foot in front of the other, but you don't have to only have your boots on the ground. You can also rise above and look down, and it will make more sense, especially when you're getting stressed out, anxious, allowing that stomach to churn and that feeling of, I don't know the answers, I don't know how to do this. Bring yourself up, bird's eye view, rise above the situation, and it always becomes less throttling, maybe is the way to say it. So that's also important because we're coming towards that retrograde. At this new moon, Mercury is already in shadow, and he's going to move himself from 21 degrees. He's going to get to 21 degrees, and by this new moon, he's at 19, and then move himself all the way back to 8 degrees. So he's already gone over Jupiter once. He's going to do it 2 more times, once in retrograde, once moving forward. I feel like that's part of this conversation of this new moon because Mercury's already trying to uncover some of these things. And because Leo energy is also quite larger than life at the best of times, the planets that are in Virgo, which is the next sign over, and the subsequent sign always has a bit of a corrective quality to the one that went before. So where Leo gets expansive, I'm going to stand on the stage like the politician, whereas Virgo's like the secretary to the politician. So the Leo energy is sort of holding court, saying what needs saying, needs to be looking, even if not always feeling, confident there. But in the background, the secretary's attending to the details. So there is both of these archetypes at play at this full moon. There is the need for us primarily to be standing on the stage and looking at, what do I want to stand on the stage and represent, especially if we go to relationships? Because of Venus, what do I want to stand on the stage and say about love? What do I want to stand on the stage and say about the masculine, the feminine, the non-binary? What do I want to say about the way that relationship community is going in the world? What is my stance on that? Again, you could think of yourself as a politician in this sense. And then equally, the Mercury Mars in Virgo, and how do I take action towards writing these new things into the Constitution, if we're going to stick with that with that analogy, writing it in, Mercury, telling a new story, making a new paradigm, and actioning it, Mars. So, and of course, the moon is going to move quite quickly into Virgo herself, and the sun within a few days moves into Virgo himself. And so the Virgo energy is actually getting stronger. So we've had this expansion, and now the corrective nature of Virgo going, okay, we've got some great ideas. We've told a wonderful story. Now let's make that a reality. So there is a lot of promise of making it a reality. And actually, with Pluto having stepped back a few months ago into Capricorn at 28 degrees now, that actually means we've got a grand Earth trine. So it's a little bit wide, but still we've got Pluto, who always wants to transform and basically empower us through transformation, or disempower us if that place we're refusing to move from is not good for us. It feels like we're being disempowered, but really it's to empower us for the next step. So Pluto here in Capricorn and Uranus here in the later degrees, and we haven't mentioned him yet, but in this reading a million times in others, but he's in the later degrees of Taurus, and Mars in the later degrees of Virgo. That means we have this amazing ability to actually bring things into material form, build the thing. So we've got this one here, Pluto, telling us to transform. We've got Uranus, who's like fighting for freedom, revolution, change. And then we've got Mars saying, okay, let's do it. I know how. I'm going to do it, but we have to put in that effort every single day. Let's go. So I feel like this is actually quite an exciting new moon. It's got like hard work signatures, but it's also got some open your mind, expand your heart kind of signatures. Another interesting thing is Venus at 18 degrees of Leo is in retrograde, is trine to Chiron at 19 degrees of Aries in retrograde. And Chiron is like the wound. And in Aries, it's to look at, especially unless it's in your birth chart as Aries, but I'm thinking more collectively, if we're looking at a collective Aries Chiron, we are kind of reinventing the self. We're looking at where the wound is around our own self-autonomy, really. And Leo is also about self-autonomy. So Venus is reflecting on that in her way, and Chiron is reflecting on that in his way. And they're working together at the moment to say, if we could come from a space of love, if we could come from a space of the heart, but still put ourselves first at the center of our story in order to get really informed and clear and healthy in ourselves, that fire element is all about original spark, self, my light. Then I can go out into the community, which is another big part of this conversation, and be the best me I can be. I can go with a clean, pure, open heart to support this one and assist that one. And when I'm running out myself, I have to peel myself back, do my self-work, get myself aligned, step back into supporting others. If I'm continually trying to support others without filling my own cup and checking in with my own energy, maybe I'm doing it in order to feel valuable. So classic, those of us who are pleasers, recovering people pleasers, we will overextend ourselves in order to feel valued and loved. I am only lovable if I help everybody. And that's of course not true, but for those of us who are big people pleasers, myself included, it really can feel that way. So this is where we reevaluate. Is that true? And do I feel that of others? Do I only love them if they do what I want, if they do what I say? And if that is so, we need to reevaluate that. Why do I only love them if I get my own way? So we come to both sides. The shadow and the light of the fire element is, I need to do me well. And if I don't believe I should, or I can, or it's fair, why don't I? And how do I reflect that to others? Because chances are, if you feel like you're not lovable and valuable enough by just being who you are, then you actually don't feel that about others either. And that's a bitter pill to swallow. So we're working on the unconditional love. We're working on the open heart. And I think I'm going to stop there so I don't get too long-winded. I have Leo rising. I have strong Leo energy. So I guess this is given me a soapbox. Not that I need much encouragement for a soapbox, right? Anyway, thank you so much for watching this. How do I stop my screen share? I can't remember how to stop a screen share. How crazy is that? Okay, so I won't stop the screen share. I will stop the recording. Oh, there we go. Stop share. Sorry. Having a moment. In fact, that I think this Lionsgate portal has been exceptionally strong for those of you who are interested in Lionsgate portal. Put something in the thing and I'll remember to start doing messages on that. But I didn't do one this year. I really rode through the waves of the Lionsgate portal personally myself and really integrated some great deep insights that potentially can come into future readings. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Remember, I am available for private work, and I'm very excited to be running this workshop, which will be in person for some people who are nearby, and also doing an online one. So if you're interested, please let me know, because it's soon, because it's to do with the new Venus cycle. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.